Arpeggios. What are arpeggios? How do we practice them? Why do we need them? My name is Mariela. I'm an international pianist performer. I'm also co-founder of Stage Talent Academy, where we teach children from age as young as 4. There's no limit, to the end. And I'm also a parent of 2 children, which I help nourish their love for music. And some of the challenges was getting the children to practice in the correct way, because everyone wants to sit and play, but they don't always understand that that doesn't just happen. You don't just see the finished product. You don't just see someone that perform and they sound beautiful. There's a lot of work that goes in the background, and it requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of persistence, not giving up and sticking with something and doing it the right way. So a lot of consistency. Now, in music, scales, broken chords, arpeggios, this is our consistency. This is like our stride. A lot of people sometimes say, oh, it's boring. Or they say, oh, it's so much, it's always the same. And yet it is important. We need this. We need to make sure that all our fingers can perform in the same way, that they're all equal. You don't have one finger stronger than the other or better than the other. We would ideally like them all to be able to play the same. We shouldn't have to think, oh, I better use this finger because it's stronger. Ideally, they would all be the same and we can play with any of them. For this reason, we practice the scales. And also because scales, broken chords, arpeggios are patterns and they appear in our pieces. So then when we start to play pieces, instead of having to read every single note, we can say, wait a minute, I spot this pattern. This is a scale. This is a major scale, or this is a minor scale, or this is an arpeggio, or this is a broken chord. And then it makes it so much easier for us to read and therefore learn quicker. It helps if we are composing, trying to come up with our own music. We have things that we can do. So today I'm going to cover the arpeggios. Again, it's an Italian word, arpeggio, which comes from the word arpa, which sounds like a harp. So I want you to imagine that this is a harp playing, or a lyre, the things that you'd see in Roman times, the little harps. It's very similar. Arpeggios are similar to the broken chords. So if you've already watched our video on scales, then you would know, if I start with the scale of C, that we go from C to C. And that was our scale, like going up and down the steps. If you watched our video on broken chords, you would know that a chord is taking more than one sound at the same time and playing it at the same time. And we started with a simple chord of 3 sounds, which was taking the first, the third, and the 5th notes of the scale. So it would sound that way. So now moving on to the arpeggio, arpeggios aren't anything other than a broken chord that is constantly in its root position. So for C major, our root chord would be 1, 3, 5. So the first, the third, and the 5th note of the scale. So C, E, and G. To turn it into an arpeggio, so you would play like a harp, like a ding, 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 ding. Imagine that you are plucking those strings one by one in order and going high and then coming back down low. You just stick to those 3 sounds, but you play them one by one over and over, like an octave higher. So you would go C, E, G, then you would go up again and do the same thing. You can go as many octaves as you like, and then make your way down using those 3 notes, G, E, C, G, E, C. Right? Now, if you try to make it jumpy, so you can use 1, 3, 5, these fingers, it's fine. If I'm teaching this to a younger child, I would just get them to understand the concept. So I would say, right, let's have your left hand give me a root chord of C major. So they would go C, E, G. Then I say, can I also hear it on your right hand? Good. And I would say, I want to hear left, left, left as a broken chord, right, right, right. Then I'd like your left hand to go over, give me the C, and then come back down, G, E, C, G, E, C. So it would sound really nice. Then you would get this. and it sounds lovely. The children like the idea of crossing hands, and they understand that it goes up, so it goes from left to right and then down from right to left. Then I'd say that sounded lovely. What about F major? So then they would find the chord of F, F-A-C, and I say I'd like the same thing. I want left, going to the right, over and back again. Right? And once they understand the concept of what the arpeggio is, which is basically your root position that's just played over and over again in higher pitch and then back down. That's what the arpeggio is. So they sound like a harp. Then I can say to them, now you're really good at doing this by using both hands. I wonder if you can do it all in one hand. So if we stick to C major, instead of going left, right, over and back again, I would say, do you think you can do all of it in one hand? It does mean you're going to have to stretch. So instead of using fingers 1, 3, 5, we're going to use 1, 2, 3, and then our thumb will have to go under. It's a big stretch to the C to do the same thing again. And we'll only bring the little finger for the bit that you would have crossed over. Let's give it a try. And then we'd go C, number 2 on E, 3 on G. Big bend your thumb. Remember, when we're going under, we don't want to raise our elbows. We just want to bend our thumb and go under straight to the C. Same thing. Little finger when we finish and back down. And you go over to the G. And I'd get them to do this a few times. Like a beautiful harp. Watch out, sometimes people like to jump this. They do this, they jump. Make sure you encourage them to play this legato. It's not about how fast we play, it's the quality of what we are playing. So we go 1, 2, 3, legato, and back again. Once they've got the right hand, you can encourage them to do it with the left. So left hand starts with the little finger, then it goes over again. Nice big stretches, make sure they bend their thumb before they go under, and then you can reach easily and legato. Make sure you leave a little bit of space between your elbows. You can't play the arpeggios if your arms are right here. It's really tricky, so you do want to leave a bit of space, and follow, if you're going low, follow it around with your body. Encourage your students or your children to do this, to follow around with their body, much easier. Once they're good at it, then you can try it hands together, which is the whole new level. So go really, really slow at first. We want same sound, equal quality, and as smooth as possible. They can go faster, but the speed will come by itself once they feel confident and their fingers learn the how far they have to stretch. Then the speed will come by itself. So don't push yourselves, don't push your students, don't push your children to actually play this fast. It will come. If they've practiced enough times, it comes by itself, and it will feel natural when it happens. It's not going to be forced. I do want to mention a very, very important thing on the arpeggios. I had one student once that was doing very, very well, and I think he was around grade 4 or 5, and he said, "Oh, I think I want to give up. I want to stop." And I said, I couldn't understand why. I said, but why? Why would you do that? You are sounding really good. What's happening? And he said, "Because I think I'm getting worse." I was thinking, really? Like, in what way are you getting worse? And he said, well, simple things that I could do before, like the arpeggios, I find that now I can't do anymore, and I'm making mistakes. So I'm not getting better, I'm getting worse. And therefore, for that reason, I think I should stop. And I said, right, could I hear your arpeggio? And this is what he did. Okay, this is someone that started when he was about 5 years old. And now he's growing. So of course, when he was 5-year-old, he would sit closer to the piano, right? But he forgot, or his parents forgot to help him, you know, to correct the sitting position. So he kept sitting really close to the piano, and even though he was getting taller, he was still sitting the same. So now, at 5 years old, sitting properly, he was here. As he got taller, because he was still putting the stool in the same height and in the same length away from the piano, he was now here like a little dinosaur, and he was playing like this, and no wonder his hands were hitting the wrong keys. And also he kept trying to stretch the same as he did when he was younger, but as he got taller, his hands got bigger, so he didn't need to stretch so much anymore. But in his mind he kept overstretching and hitting wrong notes, and therefore it just felt all wrong, and he decided that he wasn't good enough and he was going to stop. So I just smiled and I said to him, could you sit further back, please? He said, what, you know, what's that going to do? And I said, just do it, just humor me. So I got him to sit back, you know, the same height. So then his hands were here, nice and round, not too close like a dinosaur, not too high, not too low, round fingers. And I said, now just play. And funnily enough, he just played the arpeggio beautifully, up and down. And he was shocked and he went, oh, how did you do that? Is it a magic trick? I said, no, it's not a magic trick. It's just something that sometimes teachers forget to notice, or sometimes parents especially forget to notice, because they see their kids every day and their changes are gradual, so we fail to notice, but they are getting taller. So please, when practicing arpeggios especially, take note. If your children are getting taller, it means their hands are getting bigger, so they need to sit further away from the piano, possibly lower, and they're not going to stretch as much. So if you notice in their practice that they're starting to make mistakes with arpeggios, it's very noticeable in the arpeggios, then it's really worth checking, you know, how they're sitting, because it's nothing to do with them being unable to do it. It's probably something really, really simple, like sitting further away from the piano. I hope these tips help. I can't stress enough, you know, the importance of posture and sitting correctly with a straight back and relaxed shoulders. You know, I don't want to see this. It's just nice relaxed shoulders and back. Your playing will become effortless and you will get better. Thank you for watching. I'm Mariela, Stage Talent Academy.